Welcome to Get Moving TV. I'm Dr. Chris Landon. I serve as your host. Here in Ventura County, we have some 270,000 children, and what we know is about 10 to 15% of them are going to have some special health care needs. Sometimes it's problems in school with attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder, sometimes it's asthma, diabetes. At the Pediatric Diagnostic Center, we bring in specialists from Los Angeles, specialists in kidney disease and heart disease. Now we have a hematology oncology program. For years, we've had Dr. William Goldie, our pediatric neurologist. We help to take care of children in the medical therapy units with Dr. Niazi and Dr. Park doing visiting. Dr. Russell, our head of maternal and child health, has been with us for years and now heads our California Children's Services program. With us today, though, is really the whole key. MD, I say it's the mother's degree. We're going to listen to a mom and dad and sister and talk about Briana and her life here in Ventura County. Welcome to our show.
Thank you, Dr. Landon. Good to be here.
So we've been talking a little bit, just this has been a long process for you. Where was Briana born?
She was born at St. John's Hospital on March 8th, 1996. She was about 5 weeks early.
So with a little bit premature, but not something we consider terribly premature, and so that was a pretty joyful moment.
Yes, it was.
Does she have an older sister?
Yes, she does. She has an older sister, Tatiana. Everybody calls her Tiki. She's 15 and great big sister.
Sounds good. And then when we have some special problems here, when did they really seem to emerge? When did you notice something was just a little different?
Well, when she was first born, they knew when she was first born, but we really started noticing that things weren't up to speed with her when she was probably by about 9 months, when children should start sitting up on their own and being able to hold up. She couldn't do any of that. So even, getting her to roll over, she couldn't roll over. So the therapy started, very young, within, months of her being born, but the normal milestones of a normal 3, 6, 9-month-old, year-old, she never really hit them.
Well, in terms of services, because we surround all our families as best we can. So the therapy services came from? From
Easter Seals is where we first initially put her in, and she had, they're the best. They're the best when it comes to kids and with their therapy and everything. And her very first therapist, when we got her there, she was very tender with her, very, wanting to touch us. I said, oh no, you got to play with Bree like you play with anybody else. And at first, Bree really wouldn't, do anything for her. And I'm like, watch, you'll see. And, started doing more with her, kind of roughing her up here and there, playing with her a little bit stronger. And Bree took to it really good.
Well, how about her sis? Because she's, about 2 years older,
She's about 2 years older.
So.
Tiki was wonderful at Easter Seals. Everybody knew her too. She'd come in. She was coming in with big sister. And Tiki did her own kind of little therapy with her. And sister would grab her by the hands, kind of get her legs and want to play bicycle with her. Kind of same things any, big brother, big sister want to do with their baby. And we were never really, oh no, Tiki, don't do that, don't do this. We were like, play with her, breathe, We never really handled her like glass. It was always, my mom, my dad, my family was like, don't treat her any different. She understands in her own way. She understands, and she does. She does. So, we never really treated her any different than we did with big sister.
And how about dad?
Dad, 100%, great dad, great everything. He does everything with her. When she was first born, she stayed in the PICU, in the NICU for 10 days. I had to come home, and I had her by emergency C-section, so I couldn't do the traveling back and forth. So he did all of it. He was there every morning before he went to work. He did her bathing in the NICU. He did her feeding, her changing. He did it all. When we brought her home, he kind of looked at her like, okay, wait a minute, we're all the nurses now. But he took to her, and he does everything with her, and and a lot of his time is with big sister, because when Bree gets sick or she's not feeling very well, I go to the hospital. I'm with her in the hospital, so a lot of big sister time is with dad sometimes.
Well, that's important. Well, you started talking about her being in the hospital. When did she start having the kind of problems that would put a child in the hospital? It's such, for a family without a child like yours,
yes,
it's a very different kind of place.
She spent her first birthday in the hospital. The very first year of her life, I had never come across a child with special needs, so I treated her the same way I was with my older daughter, feeding her, caring, doing everything. But I would notice as she would try and drink from her bottle that she was choking a lot. And her first year, she had a lot of bronchitises, mild little pneumonias. But when she turned 11 months, she got pneumonia really bad, but she wasn't put in the hospital. Well, one day, right about 2 weeks before she turned a year old, she got really, really bad. She got so bad that she was coughing and she choked on a chunk of phlegm. We rushed her to the ER, and they kept her there. So that was our very first kind of hit in the gut, what to expect, what to say, okay, we have to adjust. And that first hospitalization was 3 weeks. We were there with her for 3 weeks, and we brought her home, and we were kind of like, okay, things have to change. And after that, she got her first real, I say her first angel, Dr. Emery. Mm-hmm. We were introduced to Dr. Emery in that stay, and to me, like I said, she was the first angel that came into Bree's life among all the rest of you guys that have come in here, But within a month of Dr. Emery having her, she realized, why Bree couldn't drink properly. The little lever in her throat wasn't closing all the way, so her formula and her juice and all the liquids were trickling into her lungs. So that was within a month of Dr. Emery having her, Bree had her first surgery, and a G-tube was placed. So we started feeding her through the G-tube that was placed in her stomach, and we basically stopped anything by mouth at that point. But basically her lungs had already been damaged from the first year of all the pneumonias and all that. So
that's pretty tough. Are there other family members around? Is Grandma around?
Oh,
Grandpa?
Yeah. Grandma, Grandpa. She has a boatload of cousins. Grandpa, actually, for a while, when she was first born, my older sister cared for her, because she had my older daughter. She was the nana. She was the babysitter for all the nieces and nephews. So she took Bree for the first about 3 years. And after that, my sister said, you know what? I want to go back to work. So I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So Grandpa had worked at GM for 30 years, retired, and goes, well, Grandpa's got her. So Grandpa took over her care. Well, I was still working. Grandpa took over her care for about 4 years, and Grandpa learned to do everything for her. Grandpa, would come to my house in the morning, and I'd have her breakfast ready. Actually, I didn't even, he would come, okay, finish getting ready, you can take Tiki to school, and Grandpa would get in the kitchen, make her breakfast, and plug her up into her G-tube, and on her therapy days would lay out her mats and get everything ready when her teachers would come or therapists come. Grandpa did it all. Grandpa would even sometimes take her to doctor's appointments.
Well, so usually we think people would be afraid, but it really sounds like she's adding something to his life.
Yes, she did. She added something to everybody's, even with my nieces and nephews. I mean, none of us, in our entire family, nobody has ever had really a special needs child. So when she was born, I did have a cousin who had Duchenne, and but he would not as severely as Bree. So when Bree came along, her cousins, aunts, uncles, it's like everybody kind of pitched in and came to the house and we're like, we got it, we've got letting me and her dad and big sister don't worry about it, we're here through it all, so even her cousins, she's brought something to them that even they never thought, when they come across other children or adults with special needs, to them it's just another person that may need a little bit more help doing this or that.